Legal and Privacy Brief for April 29, 2026. The Supreme Court appeared ready to narrow international law claims in Cisco Systems v. Doe, while federal courts criticized mass migrant detention as police state tactics. A $3.18 million PAN America data breach settlement is open for claims, and Vimeo confirmed that its breach traces to a supply chain compromise at analytics vendor Anodot. Tech lobbyists are working to water down Alaska's right to repair bill, and the GUARD Act threatens to block minors from everyday AI tools including homework helpers and customer service chatbots. Here's the full breakdown of today's top legal and privacy stories. Legal and Privacy Brief. April 29, 2026. Next section, Enforcement Actions. PAN America Data Breach Settlement, $3.18 M. PAN America has agreed to pay $3.18 million to settle class action claims stemming from a data breach that exposed customer information. Class members who were affected by the breach can file claims for cash payments. The settlement provides compensation for individuals whose personal data was compromised in the incident. Source: Top Class Actions. Vimeo data breach linked to Anodot supply chain compromise. Vimeo confirmed that user and customer data was stolen during a security incident at Anodot, a business analytics vendor. The breach primarily exposed technical data, video titles, metadata, and customer email addresses. Video content, user logins, and payment card information were not accessed. Vimeo promptly disabled all Anodot credentials and removed the integration after learning of the incident. The breach is linked to the Shinny Hunters cybercriminal group, which has conducted multiple high-profile supply chain attacks in 2026, including incidents at McGraw-Hill, and Rockstar Games. Shinny Hunters obtained authentication tokens from Anodot that allowed access to multiple customer environments without directly breaching those companies. Compliance action. Organizations using third-party analytics vendors should audit vendor access credentials immediately and review integration permissions. Implement token rotation policies and monitor for unauthorized access patterns. Review vendor security assessments and incident response procedures. Sources: The Record. Next section, Litigation Updates. Supreme Court likely to narrow international law claims in Cisco Systems v. Doe. The Supreme Court appeared poised to further restrict the ability of plaintiffs to use U.S. courts to pursue alleged violations of international law. In oral arguments for Cisco Systems v. Doe, a majority of justices seemed to side with Cisco Systems and two executives who are accused of aiding and abetting the Chinese government in creating a surveillance system used to target, detain, and torture Falun Gong practitioners. The plaintiffs, Chinese nationals and one U.S. citizen, contend that Cisco designed and maintained the Golden Shield surveillance network that enabled Chinese officials to identify and abuse Falun Gong members. The case involves the Alien Tort Statute 1789 and the Torture Victim Protection Act 1992. The Ninth Circuit ruled in 2023 that aiding and abetting claims could proceed. Source: Scotto S. blog. Federal judge condemns mass migrant detention as police state tactics. Judge Sanket Balsara of the Eastern District of New York issued a habeas corpus ruling sharply criticizing federal immigration enforcement tactics in two detention cases. Eric Parada Cruz was arrested based on a facially invalid notice to appear from 2005 that contained no date or time, and his removal order had been vacated by an immigration judge in 2019. René Benitez, who has no criminal record and has lived in New York for 14 years, was pulled over by agents in an unmarked vehicle while driving his daughter to school. When agents threatened to use force, Benitez exited the vehicle and was detained while his daughter was left alone in the car. Judge Balsara stated the tactics resembled a police state. Source: TechDirt. Monsanto v. Darnell. Supreme Court debates federal preemption of state cancer warning requirements. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments on whether Monsanto can be held liable under Missouri state law for failing to include a cancer warning on Roundup herbicide labels when the EPA did not require such a warning, and concluded glyphosate is not carcinogenic. John Darnell sued Monsanto in 2019 after developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, arguing the company violated state law by not warning consumers. Monsanto claimed the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA, preempts state lawsuits because the EPA has repeatedly determined glyphosate does not cause cancer. A Missouri jury awarded Darnell $1.25 million in compensatory damages. The Missouri Court of Appeals upheld the verdict in February 2025, ruling Monsanto failed to show Missouri's requirements conflicted with federal law or that it had asked the EPA about adding a cancer warning. Source: Scotto S. blog. Walmart faces class action over plant-based milk, labeling a new class action lawsuit, claims Walmart misled consumers by labeling its BetterGoods brand almond, oat, and soy milk as plant-based, despite the products containing ingredients that are not derived from plants. The lawsuit targets the company's marketing of the products as entirely plant-based when they allegedly contain non-plant additives. Source: top class actions. Cameo sued for drip pricing on celebrity video messages. Barron app faces a class action lawsuit accusing the company of using drip pricing on its Cameo platform, where users purchase personalized video messages from celebrities. The lawsuit alleges the pricing structure misleads consumers by not disclosing the full cost upfront. Source: top class actions. Next section: regulatory guidance. DOJ, the Department of Justice, files Truth Social post as legal brief. Admits sharing top secret plans with fake organization. The Department of Justice filed a legal brief in the National Trust for Historic Preservation's lawsuit against the National Park Service that reads like a Truth Social post. The filing concerns a ballroom Donald Trump is building at the White House after tearing down the East Wing. Brief refers to the National Trust as having a beautiful name that is fake and claims the organization was shown detailed plans and specifications of a top-secret security facility by top officers and leaders in both the military and Secret Service. The brief argues the building is necessary for presidential security following assassination attempts and requests the court dissolve its injunction against construction. The brief is notable for its unconventional tone and admission that top-secret information was shared with a non-governmental organization. Source: TechDirt. FCC router ban expands. Amazon gets exemption. No transparency on standards. The Trump FCC under Brendan Carr has expanded its ban on overseas manufactured routers to include personal hotspots. Amazon received an exemption for both its Eero consumer routers and Leo low Earth orbit routers, joining Netgear as companies granted waivers. Neither the FCC nor the companies have disclosed what criteria were used to grant exemptions, what the companies provided in exchange, or what security standards are being applied. Amazon's announcement stated only that the U.S. government has recognized Eero as a trusted and secure provider of routers. The lack of transparency raises concerns given the administration's track record on ethics and the recent Salt Typhoon breach of U.S. telecom infrastructure caused partly by unchanged default router passwords. Compliance action. Companies using affected router models should monitor the FCC exemption list and prepare contingency plans if their hardware vendors lose approval. Document security configurations and consider alternative hardware sources. Source: TechDirt. Claude Mythos finds 271 0 days in Firefox. Mozilla released Firefox 150 with fixes for 271 vulnerabilities identified by Claude Mythos preview. Anthropic's AI model that autonomously finds and weaponizes software vulnerabilities. This follows Firefox 148, which fixed 22 security-sensitive bugs found by Claude Opus 4. 6. The number represents an extraordinary volume of previously undetected vulnerabilities in a hardened target. Mozilla stated that while defenders using AI models may experience vertigo at the scale of findings, the technology favors defenders if patches can be deployed quickly. The discovery demonstrates a significant shift in the baseline of AI-assisted vulnerability research. Compliance action. Organizations should prioritize Firefox updates immediately. Security teams should prepare for similar vulnerability disclosures across other software platforms as AI-assisted security research accelerates. Review patch deployment timelines and test automated update mechanisms. Sources: Schneier on Security. Schneier on Security. Next section: privacy developments. Ukrainian police detain hackers who stole 610,000 Roblox accounts. Ukrainian law enforcement detained a group of local hackers suspected of stealing more than 610,000 Roblox user accounts and reselling them for cryptocurrency on Russian websites. The scheme was organized by a 19-year-old Ukrainian who developed a system to break into player accounts and resell them through closed online communities and a website registered in Russia. The group distributed information-stealing malware disguised as software promising gameplay advantages or free in-game bonuses. Victims included Ukrainian and foreign players whose accounts contained valuable digital items, rare equipment, and in-game currency purchased with real money. Police seized computers, mobile phones, bank cards, more than Euros 2,500, and nearly $35,000 in cash during 10 searches. Preliminary estimates suggest the scheme generated approximately 10 million hryvnias, about $227,000. The suspects face up to 15 years in prison if convicted. Source: The Record. Chinese hackers target journalists and activists in sprawling phishing campaigns. Freelance hackers linked to the Chinese government conducted 2 phishing campaigns using more than 100 malicious domains to target journalists and activists over 9 months. According to Citizen Lab research conducted with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, dozens of journalists and activists from Tibet, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Uyghur diaspora communities were targeted. The campaigns, dubbed Glitter Carp and Sequin Carp, aimed to steal credentials for follow-on operations. The research began after Uyghur Canadian activist Mehmet Todi received a WhatsApp message impersonating a filmmaker and was sent to a credential harvesting webpage. Glitter Carp is broad and relentless, targeting individuals with peripheral ties to targeted groups. Sequin Carp primarily targeted ICIJ journalist Sila Alexei and other reporters covering stories of interest to China, using sophisticated social engineering, but showing poor operational security. The campaigns demonstrate China's industrialized model of commissioning independent contractors for digital transnational repression at low cost with plausible deniability. Compliance action. Journalists, activists, and organizations supporting civil society should implement hardware security keys for authentication, avoid clicking links in unsolicited messages, and verify sender identities through separate communication channels. Organizations should provide security training focused on phishing and social engineering tactics. Source: The Record. Next section, policy changes. The GUARD Act would block minors from everyday AI tools. Not just risky chatbots. Congress is advancing the GUARD Act, an age-gating bill framed as targeting dangerous AI companions, but written broadly enough to restrict minors' access to everyday online tools, including homework helpers, customer service chatbots, and search engines that use AI. The bill defines AI chatbot as any system generating responses not fully pre-written by the developer, and AI companion as any chatbot producing human-like responses designed to encourage or facilitate interpersonal or emotional interaction. A high school student could be barred from asking homework help tools questions about algebra. A teenager trying to return a product could be blocked from customer service chat. The bill requires age verification using more than a simple checkbox, potentially requiring government ID or third-party age-checking systems. If a user is under 18 and the system might qualify as an AI companion, companies will likely block access entirely to avoid steep penalties. Critics argue the bill's broad definitions sweep in basic functionality of all AI-powered tools and will push companies to block minors entirely or strip tools down to less useful versions for everyone. Compliance action. Companies offering AI-powered chatbots, customer service tools, or search features should review the GUARD Act definitions to assess compliance requirements. Prepare contingency plans for implementing age verification systems or restricting features. Communicate with legal counsel about liability exposure. Source: EFF Deep Links. Alaska right to repair bills face tech lobby opposition. 2 versions of a right to repair law are advancing through the Alaska State House and Senate. The bills would amend the Alaska Unfair Trade Practices and Consumer Protection Act to require tech hardware manufacturers to make parts, tools, and software needed for repairs available to independent service providers and consumers. The proposal has broad bipartisan public support. TechNet, a lobbying coalition including Dell, Apple, Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, and Verizon, is lobbying against the proposal, claiming it would erode manufacturer agreements with authorized repair providers and that independent technicians lack appropriate training and safety procedures. TechNet claims the Alaska bill is misaligned with other states like New York, where lobbyists convinced Governor Kathy Hochul to water down that state's bill to near uselessness after passage. 8 states have passed right to repair laws, but not one has actively enforced them despite ongoing bad behavior by companies seeking repair monopolies. Compliance action. IT departments should monitor Alaska's legislative progress and prepare for similar bills in other states. Document repair procedures and vendor agreements. Consider building relationships with independent repair providers to assess capability and reduce vendor lock-in. Source: TechDirt. Section 230. Critical to open social web survival. EFF warns. The Electronic Frontier Foundation warned that Section 230 protections are essential for the open social web to survive and provide an alternative to big tech platforms. Section 230, passed in 1996, protects Internet intermediaries by stating that users are legally responsible for their own speech, not the services hosting it. The open social web, built on protocols like the Fediverse, Mastodon, and a Teamosphere, Blue Sky, aims to put communities back in control by prioritizing interoperability and decentralization. While big tech companies can overcome multi-million-dollar lawsuits, small host operators could be eliminated one by one without Section 230 protections. Critics seeking to diminish Section 230 to address concerns about corporate influence would actually benefit big tech, while undermining the best alternative to corporate and state control of online speech. Section 230 does not protect companies that create illegal content or shield them from intellectual property claims. Source: EFF Deep Links. Cyber Command and NSA chief warns of foreign threats to midterm elections. Army Gen. Joshua Rudd, head of U.S. Cyber Command and the National Security Agency, testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee that foreign adversaries are likely to attempt interference in the upcoming midterm elections based on past patterns. Rudd stated that Cyber Command and NSA are postured and ready to support as required to safeguard elections, but admitted uncertainty about whether the Election Security Group, ESC, a joint task force that has coordinated election security efforts since 2018, has been reconvened. The ESG has historically partnered with CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the FBI, and other agencies to prevent foreign tampering through offensive digital operations. Concerns have grown since the start of the second Trump administration due to CISA budget cuts and elimination of federal efforts to combat mis- and disinformation. Despite the FBI attributing 2024 Trump campaign breaches to Iranian hackers. Compliance action. State and local election officials should verify coordination with federal agencies and review election security procedures. Organizations supporting election infrastructure should audit access controls and incident response capabilities. Source: The Record. Next section, Compliance Takeaways. Supply Chain Vendor Review. The Vimeo Anodot breach demonstrates third-party analytics vendors can provide attack vectors to multiple downstream customers. Audit vendor credentials, implement token rotation, and review integration permissions for all third-party services with access to customer data. Firefox Patching Priority. Deploy Firefox 150 immediately. The 271 vulnerabilities found by AI-assisted security research represent a new baseline for vulnerability discovery. Prepare patch deployment processes for similar high-volume disclosures across other software platforms. Age verification compliance planning. If the GUARD Act passes, companies offering AI-powered tools must implement age verification systems or block minors entirely. Review product features against the bill's broad definitions of AI chatbot and AI companion to assess compliance requirements and liability exposure. Right to repair monitoring. Track Alaska's right to repair legislation and similar bills in other states. Document current repair procedures and vendor lock-in dependencies. Build relationships with independent repair providers to assess capabilities and reduce reliance on manufacturer-controlled repair channels. Election security coordination. State and local election officials should confirm federal coordination channels remain operational given uncertainty about the election security group's status. Review election infrastructure access controls and incident response procedures before the midterm cycle. That concludes today's legal and privacy brief. From Carolina Clear Tech, for informational purposes only, not legal advice.